Hi guys, welcome to another episode of MBTI Happy Hour. Today I am really excited to do a request, which is associations with RPG classes. I've only played a couple of video games and I think Alex doesn't really play any, but we both did a lot of research, so hopefully you will like our thoughts.
Okay, so let's start with ISTJ. For ISTJ, I said the Knight. So the Knight is an experienced fighter, so I thought of that as like high SI knowledge, where you're retaining all the things you learned from past experiences. The Knight has more armor and therefore is more defensive, so I think of that as more of like SI over TE. So SI is more about like pre-planning and preparing, and TE is more about maybe being kind of responsive in the moment.
Okay, so for ISTJ, I put the Ranger or Archer. So for that, I kind of just pictured a person like alone in the mountain practicing archery over and over again, which made me think of introversion and also SI. Yeah, I think of like SI type as someone who would be ranged in general, as opposed to like close combat, which I associate in my mind as more SE.
Okay, interesting. So for INTJ, I actually put the Sniper Ranger, which I assume is the same class.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I kind of had similar theory that like maybe with inferior SE, it makes sense that they wouldn't be too much in the action and more kind of at the back, where maybe they can kind of see the whole NI picture. And again, long range, I guess maybe that just kind of conjures like this long rangeness of NI in a sense of how it like predicts. That's like an SI.
Yeah, it's an SI, so that's so weird. I put the Rogue or Assassin, which I know everyone expects that to be like ISTP, but I read more about it and it said like the Rogue relies on stealth and setting traps and planning. So I thought of it as like someone who is not having a lot of brute strength or armor, which I think of as like low SE, and someone who has to like hide in the shadows and wait for the perfect moment to catch their opponent off guard, which I thought of as like NI planning and just general TE effectiveness.
Actually, that's kind of true, because I recently was like playing dodgeball and that was pretty much my strategy. I was like, okay, I suck at this, so let me just like do it when someone else throws the ball and I can catch them off guard.
Yeah, I even read that like the poison is part of the assassin rogue thing, and I can imagine INTJ just like just hiding in a household in plain sight for years as like a servant and one day putting in the poison.
ESTJ. So for ESTJ, I said the Swashbuckler. For the Swashbuckler, there is no armor, so there's less defense. So again, I thought of that as like TE over SI. Apparently the Swashbuckler still has a lot of tactics and strategy, and I associated that with SI.
What is a swashbuckler?
I don't know. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, they usually have a gun or pistol. That's great, because I put the gunslinger, because I thought of like dominant TE as kind of like a master of tools type thing. For gunslinger, I also said that like it's being used in a society that generally doesn't have guns, so it's kind of supposed to be like a specialized skill. So I thought of it as something that requires more than average amount of practice, which I also thought of as SI. And also just the efficiency and effectiveness of a gun in a medieval society made me think of like dominant TE as well, to be honest.
ENTJ. For ENTJ, I put the Barbarian. Again, so there's more focus on attack than defense, which I associated with higher TE over NI. Yeah, so the Barbarian also tries to do the most damage. So I see that as more kind of like TE, SE, being more opportunistic, using like that's kind of very efficient, direct approach, as opposed to like SI that might be more about strategy or tactics.
Okay, for ENTJ, this is going to be probably surprising to everyone, but I thought I fit the best. I put Summoner. I know it's like kind of technically a magic skill, but I really think that ENTJs in real life, with their like TE effectiveness and SE charm, they're kind of like summoners. Like they are really good at directing a bunch of people or rallying a bunch of people together to do their bidding for them in real life. So I thought the Summoner was a good fit for that, despite the magic. But then, honestly, I think their auxiliary NI can be associated with magic, because NI is magical.
Moving on to ISFJ. For ISFJ, I put Witch Doctor. So I thought of like high SI and also tertiary TI as kind of like knowledge of all the sort of natural remedies and all the very specific components that would go into like a potion or something like that would heal someone. And I guess, of course, like the kind of FE stereotype of like valuing humanity and therefore wanting to heal people.
Okay, this is kind of similar. I put the sage or scholar for ISFJ.
Okay.
So I thought SI and TI are generally just very knowledge and research oriented. And also like being a scholar, they're out of the principal action, I think, which reminded me of introversion. And then also the FE, because a scholar, I think, would help the fighters or like principal character.
Okay, INFJ. For INFJ, I put sorcerer. And I feel like we've probably done similar types like this before. Sorcerer has innate magic, so as opposed to like learned magic. Like how NI just kind of has hunches about things without actually remembering the specific SE circumstances that led to that hunch. So I felt of that as kind of like just this innate knowing. But because they have this innate magic, they're limited to a certain type of spells, so I thought that that's very much like this NI, very limited scope of like one or several areas of interest.
Oh, yeah, this is kind of the same. I put like mage, which I think is the same as the like, sorcerer pretty much, / necromancer, which is a certain part of sorcerer. Okay, I don't know, I just thought if anyone can bring the dead to life, it'd be like INFJs. Inspire the dead to keep living. Yeah, and also I associate NI with like magic still.
ESFJ. For ESFJ, I put priest. So the priest is the dominant healer position. High FE is like wanting, you know, valuing, I guess, others being good and kind of being aware of the social atmosphere and wanting to affect that. And SI is probably being good at like dealing with like multiple people. And then also apparently the priest deals with demons. So I thought of that as like a tertiary NE thing where it like deals with some otherworldly stuff.
Oh, so for ESFJ, I put knight. The concept of a knight is very social, like it's very FE and SI, like this is your social class, you're a knight. But also like it has heavy armor and heavy defense, and therefore the knight is supposed to take hits for their allies, which I thought of as like really FE. And also a knight is supposed to be chivalrous, that's why it's taking the damage, which I thought of as SI as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like if you just think about the stereotype of a knight in general, not related to video games, it kind of conjures this like ESFJ type archetype. Yeah. ENFJ. So for ENFJ, I put battle priest. Battle priest, again, is a healer, so the same kind of general FE reasons that I use with the ESFJ, but I guess they have tertiary SE, and I thought that SE again would kind of be a little bit better in battle and being able to kind of respond more quickly, maybe.
Oh, for ENFJ, I put paladin. So what I read about the paladin was that it has a lot of light and healing magic, and this magic is supposedly given to them by spirituality, which I thought healing as very like FE, and the spirituality aspect as in I.
All right, moving on to ISFP. For ISFP, I put hero. So I think the hero is mainly motivated by like doing what they think is right, which seems like a very FI dominant kind of focus. But usually I think within like the narrative, the hero is kind of at the hands of destiny. So that made me think of like being a perceiver too.
Oh.
And and I think maybe that the SE is more adept at like dealing with real world circumstances and kind of like facing the forces of evil or whatever that the hero has to do.
For ISFP, I put the elemental mage. I don't know, it's just the image of an elementalist is very artistic, but also like I think the elemental powers kind of come from within, and SE just reminds me of nature. Yeah. Oh, and the within thing reminded me of FI.
INFP. For INFP, I put bard. I guess it's kind of like stereotypical, like musical, lyrical INFP stereotype. Apparently the bard can use music for purposes of like diplomacy. And I thought that the NE-SI axis is good at like seeing all perspectives and might be good at kind of figuring out what other people want or finding common ground with SI.
This is kind of interesting. I put priest. What I read about priest was that it's a squishy healer and it has little offense, which I thought of as SE polar. Apparently the powers of the priest come from their beliefs. I think it's like religious beliefs in the thing that I read, but I interpret it as like just any beliefs. So I think the power of INFP comes from like their FI beliefs.
ESFP. So for ESFP, I put assassin. So they're SE dominant, so I feel like they are more predisposed to be kind of alert and aware of their external environment. And assassins also have many different abilities. So again, I thought of that as kind of like SE opportunism, as well as tertiary TE. They have really good killing abilities, which is like, I guess, kind of a very effective external result.
For ESFP, I put berserker, which is the same as like barbarian, but I didn't want to use the word barbarian, but you used it anyway. But you put for ENTJ, which is the same kind of functions.
Yeah.
But I definitely associate dominant SE with being like very strong and very forceful and in the front lines of battle. Also, I read that the berserker can do more damage when they're more hurt, which I thought of as like SE and FI.
ENFP. For ENFP, I put red mage. So this is a magician who doesn't specialize and knows all types of magic. So I thought of that as like kind of opposite to like the INFJ sorcerer, where it's like very limited NI depth in one area, and this is like NE breadth and like a bunch or all different types of magic. They also tend to be open-minded and kind of against the classism of magicians, because I guess apparently there's like, I don't know, there's classes, something about unequal rights. I kind of looked into it.
Deep into this. Cool.
So I thought of like maybe the FI is kind of like being open-minded and being against the kind of social structure that exists out there.
Okay, this is honestly like that beverages video we made where you were like jasmine tea, black tea, chamomile tea. Because like when I was looking at these, I was like, oh, red mage, blue mage. I was like, no, they're all just mage.
Right.
Let me like try to make these categories as distinct as I can. But yeah, that's a good interpretation. I put bard, so I guess it's like a half match. Bard was just so whimsical, and I also said it buffs allies, which I think of ENFPs as like one of the most cherished feelers that we have. And Bard, or like music, is a really, really creative way of offense, which made me think of like NE.
That's true.
Just the image of a Bard is so ENFP. Like every ENFP I know sing in the streets. Like they just do. I know 2 ENFP girls, they both like just randomly break out into song while they're walking. It's great.
On to the TPs. So for ISTP, I put engineer. This type relies on technology, so I thought of that as like a very, I guess, TI, kind of understanding the mechanisms of how things work, and SE being able to understand this like real world system. And also, I guess it's like often a kind of steampunk thing, which I thought of as like a kind of SE aesthetic.
Oh, okay. For ISTP, I put like the monk / martial artist, because I don't know, I think of ISTPs as like really good sensors because they have like strong SE and subconscious SI, and maybe following their TI principles, they decided to be unreliant on weaponry because the martial artist is said to only use like his body or something.
INTP. So for INTP, I put the Vancian magician. So this type needs to learn how to do magic, and it can take them a while to do so. So I thought that of like TI, kind of like learning from the foundation up and building that very thorough model. And they're also very studious and in isolation, and I think I can imagine like an INTP being content in their little isolated bubble.
Okay, for INTP, I put the alchemist. Yeah, honestly, the persona of an alchemist working with all these potions just reminded me of like this INTP person who's like, yeah, no battle, nope. I'm just gonna be here with my SE pillar and make potions that help everyone. Yeah, it's kind of like inferior FE if you think about it.
Right.
But also it's just NE and TI seeming like you have to have like a lot of knowledge from the ground up to make potions, I think, and NE you have to be like creative to come up with a variety of potions. This was kind of a stretch, but honestly the image of like an INTP alchemist makes sense in my mind. Oh, also it says that like, I don't know where I read this, but it says alchemists are really good at throwing stuff. It just reminded me of like this INTP who set up camp like just outside of battlegrounds and is just throwing potions at the opponents instead of like joining in.
ESTP. For ESTP, I put ninja. So again, ninjas I think have to be very alert and aware of their external environment, and that seems like SE. Again, they have many skills and are opportunistic, which I also associate with SE, but I think they have this kind of TI technical expertise. Like it's very precise and very kind of like they take a lot of time to learn this like martial arts or whatever, whereas like the ESFP assassin, I think, is more just with TE kind of in the moment executing these things.
Okay. For ESTP, I put the warrior, which is like sometimes synonymous with protagonist. Yeah, once again, I think of like the frontline fighting with armor, like melee stuff as SE. And also the hero stereotype as like ESTP, because I think in a bunch of Disney movies, like the male protagonist is ESTP, like Aladdin and a bunch of other
Right, yeah.
So I don't know why there's this cultural stereotype of ESTPs like being the protagonist, but I thought it fit in a video game scenario.
ENTP. So for ENTP, I put the alchemist. So I guess kind of like a half match with you. So pretty much the same thing. I thought of just like mixing random things together to create like potions or bombs or whatever is like very like dominant NE, and also kind of TI of probably like understanding the mechanisms of like why this works with that and that works with that. And I also thought it kind of worked with like the ISFJ, that it was like the witch doctor, but so it's like the same functions but like opposite. So it's like the ENTP alchemist is like making these crazy experiments on this end, and then on that end the witch doctor is like observing and noting which ones work and which ones don't, and collecting all this knowledge.
Yeah, oh, that's like a team to like, that's, yeah, I will watch this.
Alpha team.
Fan fiction. Okay, so for ENTP I put engineer. This is not because so many real life engineers are ENTP. I don't know. It's just that it relies on technology to achieve ranged effects similar to a mage. So I think of like ENTP as something magical with their NE, but like rooted in a TI, like something that would actually function in reality. So like a mechanical mage type thing just fit.
Okay guys, let us know what you think in the comments, because probably a lot of you know a lot more about these classes than we do. So hopefully we were accurate, but if there were any kind of like misinformation on certain details or something like that, let us know. And yeah, let us know what you guys think would fit with certain classes. That'd be interesting to see. And if you guys want to join us on Patreon, we offer some exclusive perks for you guys there, so you can check that out in the description box below. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.